Oh, here we go. Let's see what happens. This is my first longer trip on my Royal Enfield Himalayan. I drove from Southern California up to Reno, Nevada, and on my way back I'm doing the 100-mile trip on the Saline Valley Road, which is a road that goes through Death Valley in the most remote eastern part of it. I have notified my emergency contacts, which is my wife and particularly my daughter. They'll monitor my location, and if I don't show up tonight, they'll call the cavalry / park rangers. And on top of that, I got a good friend with a four-wheel drive truck who would come and bail me out if I need to. I'm prepared to spend a night or two. I figure if you're going solo on this road, you have to pack for a 3-day event in case you get stuck or you have problems. The two guys on the side of the road that you'll just see here coming up, those are the last people I'll see for the next 5 hours. Yep, that was my turnoff right there. That little road going to the right is what my app indicates. So, guess I missed that one. I'm going to have to turn around at a safe spot. And sometimes the world looks pretty when you turn around. This is a shortcut that is supposed to cut off a chunk of the route and lead me directly to the Saline Valley Road. I'm not sure if this is the right track. This is not really what I expected. First of all, this does not look like anybody's traveled on this road for a while. It's loose in spots and my rear end's floating around. I have made changes insofar that I've added 3 gallons, which changed the center of gravity. It made it go more up, and the weight ratio has completely changed. So I'm a little bit concerned, particularly with the time involved that it would take for me to do this road at the speeds that I'm traveling within the 5-hour window that I've allowed myself for. I had spent a few days ago some time on roads like this, not quite like this, but similar to that, around Bodie Ghost Town, and I thought I'd knock my rust loose, but at this point I don't feel like I'm having a whole, yes, I'm in control, but this does not feel comfortable at all, and I am sure this is not going to be the way to go. So I guess I found my spot to turn around. Well, I'm having a chance here to make a smart or stupid decision. I think I made the smart decision. It just feels that as if I'm cold, meaning, I'm not warmed up, I'm not tuned in. This is a little bit too much to start out with. Doesn't feel good at this point. It's a gut feeling, and I listen to my guts. So I will take the road ahead of us. That is Death Valley Road. It will lead into Death Valley. It will do the same thing, except it'll be on a paved road. It'll be still a cool trip, and some other day. As I'm making my way carefully down the slope, I remember 35 years ago when I was racing motocross in Germany. This would have looked like that. With 8 times the speed of the video, it even sounds like the old 2-stroke engines back in the day. No, that's more like it. Road is wider. You can tell somebody's traveled this road before, and I'm glad I made my decision to turn around and use this one. This has the official sign on it, Saline Valley Road, so I'm glad I made that decision. It's fun again. We're riding faster. We're making time. I'm paying attention to the road, trying to remember all my riding techniques from back then. I'm focusing on staying on the light colored trail, stay away from the dark ones. That's just loose gravel, which makes everything shimmy around too much. So happy about that. Landscape is gorgeous. Actually on a little bit of a decline now. There's a short little valley. We'll come up again, but our highest point was at the start of the turnoff to the official Saline Valley Road. The washboard works fairly harmoniously with the setup on the Himalayan. I'm trying to stay away from the really rough stuff that you can see on the left and just hold my line and keep my weight on the back and stay relaxed with mine. The road snaking up in the background is where I gotta go. This is the start of the decline, or steep decline, mentioned by Daniel Catman on Facebook in one of the comments. And he was right. This is a fairly steep affair. Further down, the actual steepest grade, this one is 22%. Not a problem going down with the second gear and easy on the brakes and not avoiding any slides, no problem. However, at some spot you wonder if it's going to be as easy to go up if you'd have to. I'm definitely used to the bike now. It feels much better. I have more control with where the center of gravity is. Everything is just smoothing out nicely, and I feel like I relate to the road well. What I'm relearning here is the human tendency to fixate on a target. And it's true, if you follow a road like this and you look at that rock that you're trying to avoid, you're actually going to hit it because you're looking at that rock. So I'm learning pretty quick to not look at that rock, but look right next to it or look in between rocks. And that way, this is exactly where you go. It's mind-blowing, but I think we have that ability since we climbed out of the trees and started throwing rocks at each other. I want to give a quick shout out to Reno Motorsports for connecting me with their neighbor Barry Durbin at NAR. His company stands for Nevada Adventure Rentals. Talk about serendipity. It was just the place I needed because my handlebar USB connector had broken down, and that was part of my essential USB charging system. And Barry had a battery tender USB plug handy, and since I had the same plug in, it took me just 2 minutes and a couple of zip ties, and I was ready to go. Barry has actually a stable of rentals like Africa Twins, KTMs, and he does logistics, and you can reach him at NevadaAdventureRentals.com. And he's close to the airport. Think about it. Now the GoPro amazes me. See, as I'm coming through this wash, the camera barely moves and it was quite a jolt. And then that rock right there, I hit that and it went bouncy all over the place on the bike, but this stabilization of the GoPro is amazing. Here's one of those side roads again coming up. They'll lead to some cool place, but again, it's like it doesn't feel right if you go there by yourself. The chances are remote that you get picked up somewhere out there. It's a group thing. I wouldn't mind. At this point, we've officially crossed the line, and we are now inside Death Valley National Park, going down into the valley. This is a little bit of an incline between the two peaks that are at the beginning. It's a little bit lower than the first one at the turnoff, and after this there will be the long decline down into the valley. And then in between you find these little spots where the geology is a little bit different. The terrain smooths out a little bit and you get to pick up a little bit of speed. Again, I have to say the camera really doesn't show this road because it's rougher than hell. It beats the hell out of me, the machine, and again, the stabilization. This does not tell the truth. Well, we're down in the valley, and this is where I crashed. So what happened was, after getting my cage rattled on the ruts that you see on the left and all over the place and sliding, I looked at the right side, and right where that berm is from some previous grading project, it looks pretty smooth, and that's what I fell into. I basically got my front wheel into there and I laid on the side, and there I was. I don't have any video of it because that was not going through my mind. At that moment, once I crashed, video was not on my mind. I got off the horse and I wanted to get back on it as quickly as possible before I got spooked out of that old thing. It was cool. It worked well. What was really cool was having the Howard boxes from Royal Enfield. They kept it already at a comfortable angle to pick it up and bring it back up. It was cool. Well, here we are. Bottom of the valley. It's hot. This doesn't help, but It's all right, so far so good. Himalayan performs beautifully. Well, and then you get the good spots again. That's usually right at the, before you come into the valley and as you start leaving, which is what's happening. So it's a little smooth end, but it's only going to get a little bit rougher again, because I got to climb out that thing. This whole valley is surrounded by mountains, so there is no easy way out. So, we're leaving the valley. Right down there where the white spot is, that's where I came around from and made it finally getting out of this valley here. It's windy as hell. Pretty rough road, but the bike seems to handle it really well. Got a little leak at the oil leak at the cylinder, but I'm not worried about that. All right, 30 more miles to go. I actually have to revise my stance on the clothing that I was wearing, in particular the helmet. In this type of climate, if you have to wear clothes in order to keep the moisture in, otherwise it evaporates so fast you don't even know that you're sweating. So I never took my helmet off. I was never uncomfortable. Even when I was riding, I kept the visor down because it kept me from getting too overheated from the large hair dryer that the wind represented. Same thing with the jacket. I didn't have the zipper up and I had my arms covered, but all the vent holes were open, so I could feel myself sweating, and that's a good thing. Somewhere in this section I crashed. There is one section that has a 33% incline, and it was probably on that one. And what happened was I fell to the right after I lost control on some gravel with my rear wheel, which spun left, pushed me right, and as I'm trying to correct, it falls onto the right side. So here I am with the bike facing, the right side facing downhill, and so uphill pushing was kind of impossible, so at least I took it by the rear tire and dragged it parallel to the road, and so that I could at least try to lift it up. I was still on the lower side of it, but I felt that I was able to do that. So as I'm getting it up, I realized, oh boy, I'm still a little bit lower, and I need to get my leg over that without it falling back on me. So I lean opposite, and of course, not being able to jump on it right quick, the bike then fell over on the left side. So by that time I wasn't even worried about the bike because it's like a rugged as hell, so I had no problems with that at all. Actually, it wasn't to my advantage, not that I wanted it to, but I was now on the high side of the bike, and that meant if I bring it up I can easily throw my leg over it and get going. The side effect of that was that the gas flow was interrupted from this being shaken left, right. This was my second chance of the day to make either a smart or a stupid decision. Once I tried to start the engine, it would not start, and obviously there was a fuel flow interruption from all the shaking about, and I chose to wait and just let gravity do its thing, and I was rewarded with the engine coming up in about 2 minutes. So I'm glad I gave patience a chance and let that gas drain down, because a dead battery is not good for one's mental constitution out there in the middle of nowhere. Things are looking up. I think I'm over the worst. We've climbed over the last hills, maybe some couple of little ones are coming up, but the temperature has definitely lowered, and I'm way more comfortable than I was down in the valley. Wow, look at that sweet stuff. Definitely rideable. 40 miles an hour, skims right over that short-ribbed washboard. Pleasant washboard, as a matter of fact. Got to still keep your position, but this thing is flying, and you know it's coming to an end. I've definitely reached the high desert again. I love this little valley with Joshua trees and a straight road that allows nice speeds. Thank you, by the way, for all the Facebook commentary with good advice. It was well received, and it helped me make my decisions, so thank you. What a great experience. I've made it to the end of Saline Valley Road in Death Valley. I enjoyed every minute of it.